All right, let's jump right in. Today, we're talking about that feeling. You know the one, the feeling of being completely stuck. And we're going to explore how to navigate out of it using this really cool concept called the identity river. And it so often starts with a feeling just like this, right? It's that sense of being constrained, almost trapped by a life or a job or even a version of yourself that used to feel perfect, but now it just pinches with every single move you make. So that brings us to the real heart of the matter, the central question we're digging into today. Why is it that when you want to step into something new, it feels like you're betraying who you've always been? It's that tension, that internal tug of war that can keep us absolutely paralyzed. Okay, so let's get specific. How does this feeling actually show up in our day-to-day lives? What does it look like? You know, what I love about this is how it makes that vague, fuzzy feeling totally concrete. We're not just talking about some minor unease. No, this is staying in that job you picked because it was the responsible thing to do, even though it's draining the life out of you. It's putting off those big decisions because they don't quite fit the story you tell about yourself. It even shows up in old friendships, where being your true, authentic self suddenly feels like you're being disloyal. And all of it is held together by that quiet little voice in your head that just insists, this is who I am, end of story. Well, it turns out this whole pattern, it actually has a name. And just giving it a name can be incredibly powerful. So let's get introduced to identity foreclosure. So what is it exactly? Well, identity foreclosure happens when we commit to a self-image really early on, maybe in our teens or 20s, without ever really exploring other options. We kind of lock in a version of ourselves that years down the road might be totally out of date. And I really want you to hear this next part. This is not a personal flaw. It's not something you did wrong. It's actually a protective mechanism. It's something your brain came up with to feel safe and stable in a world that can feel pretty uncertain. And this slide just lays out the trade-off perfectly, doesn't it? On one side, you got why we cling so tightly. It gives us a sense of safety, stability, a coherent story about who we are. It's like an anchor. But the cost of holding on to that anchor is huge. It leads to stagnation, this feeling of inauthenticity that just drains your energy, and that constant quiet hum of dissatisfaction in the background. Okay, so if we know this isn't working for us, why is it so ridiculously hard to change? Well, the answer is actually in our own biology, which brings us to our next section, why your brain fights back. See, your brain is fundamentally wired for efficiency, not necessarily for your personal growth. And this slide breaks down its resistance program. You've got cognitive dissonance, that's the mental friction you feel when a new experience clashes with who you think you are. Then there are the neural pathways. Your brain is always going to prefer the familiar, well-worn road of your old identity. And I absolutely love this metaphor of the identity house. Trying to renovate your core self, it feels so risky, like the whole foundation might just crumble right under your feet. So the big question is, how do we work with our brain's programming instead of fighting what feels like a losing battle against it? This brings us to the really practical, actionable part of our explainer. 5 principles for flow. First step, principle 1, inventory your identity anchors. I mean, before you can change your course, you've got to know what's holding you in place, right? The goal here is just simple awareness. Here's how it works in practice. You just list 3 of your core self-labels, like the responsible one or the funny one, and then trace back where they came from. This is so powerful because it creates what psychologists call metacognitive distance. You stop being lost inside the story and you start being able to observe the story. The example here is just perfect. A woman realizes her caretaker label came from her mom's illness when she was young. And suddenly, that awareness gives her the freedom to go travel solo without all the guilt. Okay, so once you have that awareness of your anchors, the next step is to make change feel way less threatening. And that brings us to principle 2, explore micro deviations. This is all about lowering the stakes, like dramatically. Instead of some massive, scary life change, you just try a new hobby for 15 minutes a day. No pressure, no commitment. Why does this work? It's all about neuroplasticity. You're gently building new neural connections without setting off your brain's big, scary threat alarm. The stable earner who starts sketching is a fantastic example. That one tiny act eventually shifts how he sees himself, just enough to ask for more creative work at his day job. It's amazing. All right, principle 3. This one goes right for that feeling of betrayal we talked about earlier. It's all about how to reframe loyalty to self. The key action here is this one. Simple but totally game-changing question. Am I being loyal to the me of the past or to the me who's evolving right now? Whoa, that just rewrites the entire narrative, doesn't it? Suddenly, growth isn't a betrayal. It's the highest form of self-care. This is what allows someone to gently pull away from old friendships that don't fit anymore, not out of anger, but as a way of truly honoring their own growth. Okay, number 4. This one is huge because, let's be honest, we don't change in a vacuum, right? We need other people. This is all about seeking out your identity witnesses.
The idea is so simple, but so powerful. You share a small new aspiration with someone you really trust, someone who can see your potential beyond that old label you've been wearing. Hearing someone else validate this new emerging part of you, it's incredibly powerful. It makes it real and strengthens those new aspects of your self-concept. It's like the overachiever who finally confides in a mentor and gets the courage they need to set healthy boundaries at work for the first time.
And finally, our fifth principle. This is about managing that inevitable pull of the past. It's called track identity echoes. Think of this like a mindfulness practice for your identity. When you feel that old self-image trying to pull you back, that little flicker of doubt or hesitation, you just notice it. You can even rate how strong it is on a scale from 1 to 10. What this does is it works like a kind of exposure therapy. By calmly observing the fear instead of reacting to it, you teach your brain that this discomfort isn't a threat, and over time, its power just fades. So we've got these 5 amazing principles. But how do they all come together? Well, let's tie it all up with a final, really powerful mental model, the identity river. And this slide, just wow. It puts the two states side by side perfectly. Identity foreclosure turns you into a stagnant pond. The flow is dammed up, which creates all this pressure and muck. But an evolving self, that's a flowing river. It meanders, it adapts, it finds new ways forward. And here's the kicker. Real safety isn't found in being stuck and static. True safety is found in that gentle, continuous flow and adaptation. So as we wrap this up, I want to leave you with this one last powerful question. It's really an invitation to be gentle with yourself, to loosen your grip on who you think you're supposed to be. And just consider this. What if the you that is emerging next is the one you've been waiting for all along?